All right, everybody, welcome to NorCal Sports Network. And this is the same hat that Brock Purdy's dad wears. Chat loves it when Marty Lurie comes on.
Anytime you lose a game this time of year, when you can't go backwards, it's a problem.
All right, everybody, welcome on in. NorCal Sports Network. Golden State Warriors blow a big one tonight in Philadelphia. Jimmy Butler doesn't play. The Warriors don't have anything. All right. The show's brought to you by Chapman Law Group. Chapman Law Group, located in Marin, licensed in all California. Check out Chapman Law Group. Call at 415-613-9483 for all your legal needs. Maybe you got a personal injury situation you need help with. You got hit from behind, or maybe you got hit from the side. I don't know. You got hit. Give Chapman Law Group a call, man. They can help you. And the call doesn't cost you anything, guys. So give them a call, 415-613-9483. And wow, guys, get the band to stop playing here. There we go. All right. Warriors lose a tough one tonight. It looked like they might be able to pull it off as Steph Curry was going to try to will them to victory. But the Sixers clamped him. They really did a great job of not letting him get his shot off. And the Warriors, I mean, what happened to this team, guys? What happened to this team when Steph's getting trapped? Does everybody just got to shoot from three? How about drive to the bucket constantly? Just keep going at it. And the Warriors lived by the three and died by the three tonight. What's your take on it, guys?
Yeah, I think I actually did see them go to the basket a good amount, actually. Not as much as I would have liked, but, more than normal. And I think the problem was we missed a lot of layups. I'm sure Lou has that down in his notes because he always goes on a rant when we miss layups. But I think I counted, I don't know, Lou, maybe you actually counted, but I at least counted 9 missed layups. And I think that kind of got the team going, outside more because, I don't know, it was just weird. And then also, there was a couple, I think there was 2 missed dunks. It was just a really bad offensive game choice in general. I think there was a lot of rush layups. Draymond Green, I think, was 5 of 14. And I believe he only took 2 threes. So those were, all missed layups basically because he missed like 4 layups. And, I think basically the game came down to me was, the little stuff, not making the layups, bad passes at the end, Guy Santos stepping out and not establishing out of bounds, bunch of different little things. It was a tough game to watch that decision wise.
I usually don't get ripped Kerr, but Kerr needs to grow a pair. When Draymond does this, do the opposite. The clown, he thinks he didn't foul the guy. He hammered him in the legs. Okay, dude, you hammered him and you think you didn't do it. Draymond's the kind of guy that thinks his, stuff doesn't stink, right? I mean, this guy has got to be, I put him up there with LeBum. Oh, by the way, guys, we're in the first 5 minutes, the new standard of the show. LeBum is not a top 5 player in basketball. That's right. LeBum is not a top 5 all-time player. Barely makes my top 10. All right. Lou, what's your thoughts?
Well, I wrote a few things down like usual. First of all, the first half, these guys weren't mentally into it. And to tell you the truth, if it wasn't for Peyton, they would have lost by 20. Maybe even more. Peyton was a difference. I don't give a shit what Kerr has. You got to play Peyton more, especially when Butler's not in. Beside defense, the guy moves almost as much as Steph. He had like 4 or 5 great layups. Speaking of layups, I agree. They probably had, I think I saw 4 2-on-1s and 3-on-2s, and they missed them all. Yep. And I think the biggest problem with the game, mental errors. And, Green has to stop bitching. He bitched that second half at least 8 times. It got sort of, ridiculous. The other thing is you don't say You don't challenge when you only have one timeout left in the game in a 2-point game. Green bitches. So, of course, Kerr says, okay, it was obviously a foul. Now they had no more timeouts, and that's a time where, Kerr's got to get a sack and say, Green, don't worry about it. We need that timeout because the timeout's more important than the free throws, and I just think, overall, you can't let, what really frustrated me tonight is their two best players at one point in the first half were 2 for 13, and they still led the Warriors by 11. But it shows you on the NBA, especially when you're on the road, every person is an NBA player. You got to come to play. And, this was the first time without Butler. And I think what we realize without Butler, our defense really takes a step down. He's such a big key. Forget about his offense. He's more valuable with our defense. And I think tonight, you got to admit it, Philly played better than us, and the better team won. The other thing, too, and last, and then I'll let you go, Dan, I thought the refereeing tonight, both ways, was horrible. It affected the game. It slowed the game down. The guy for Philly who had an unbelievable game, I mean, I'd never heard of Grimes before this. I mean, he must have gone up 3 times when we went for a layup, and the guy came down and there was no foul. So I think the refs were bad both ways. But, the NBA's got to get better where, what's going to happen is one of these guys, a main star, is going to get injured, and it's going to affect the league worse. Dan, I'll give it to you.
Yeah, I think the NBA, the league is, like you said, Lou, the complaining about Green every time he, Green, I saw this the other day. Who did I see it with? Green goes down, misses a shot. Somebody gets the rebound, makes it, and Green's still complaining. I saw it happen. I don't know if it was another game or if it was might have been happened to Curry. Might have happened to Curry
a couple times.
But it was just the other day. Curry makes the shot. He gets fouled. They don't call it. Someone else makes it. Curry just goes, okay, got the bucket, get back on defense. Draymond would rather argue to be right than just play the game. You're not changing you got the bucket. Shut up and get back on defense. Just shut up. I'll tell you what, if Steve Kerr ever could just grow a big giant pair of kahunas and just say, get off the court, shut up and play defense. Doggone it. Shut up. Sit on the end of the bench until you're ready to play defense. He sits back there and complains and complains and complains, and you could see his effort. And it's a 5-on-4. And the other thing I want to make a point about is the ball that clearly went out on Paul George's hands. The Warriors had used their challenge because of the stupid Draymond doing his little having to get his way, and Kerr bows down to him every darn time. Come on. Somebody on the bench has got to see that. It was clearly a foul. The way Draymond thought, I thought, oh, well, maybe the replay, the guy's going to kick his leg out. The guy was as straight as an arrow, his legs. It's just like, dude, didn't even move his legs. So, but what I want to get at is the referees blew the call. The Warriors didn't have a challenge. Then there's that challenge where it was off of Santos or whoever the other guy, I couldn't remember. And it was so close, it took them 3 minutes to decide, and they couldn't figure it out. At that point,
ruin the momentum.
At that point, if you can't determine it, go with the call on the floor, and somebody in the NBA's got to say, you know what, we just 30 seconds earlier blew a big one, and it affected the game. Give it to the Warriors. I mean, at some point, you just got to get the call right when you're doing replay. You got to get it right. And that was there's no way to actually tell it was so close. So that's my gripe. But the Warriors didn't deserve to win tonight. When you miss that many layups and you let a couple of fat dudes shoot 3-pointers all night long. What's that big dude from Europe? The guy from France? The guy that would play.
I don't know how to say his name. I know who you're talking about, though. He's the
too heavy.
Guy,
right?
Too heavy.
Gresham. Yeah.
No, not that guy. Type Thabuli or what? I don't remember his name, but whatever. He shouldn't be making those shots wide open. I mean, you got to he's too fat to escape. How does the guy get open at? He's too fat.
Yeah, well, on that real quick, one thing I'll say about the referees, and then I'll tell you about why that guy got open. On the referees, my take is I think this happens with the Warriors a lot, and I've said this before on the show, and my take with it, and I've heard Alchemy and other people who cover just the Warriors say this. Basically, I think it's actually because of Draymond. I think it's kind of what you were talking about a little bit earlier, not just with the antics and the complaining, but also you got to keep in mind, they just don't like Draymond. Because he literally like cusses them out. He's gotten tossed out of so many games over the years. It's the same refs. I mean, there's a couple new ones, but it's basically the same set of guys. And
yes,
I think that's why the Warriors, don't get favorable calls a lot of the times. That's one of my takes. And then what I'll say about, I mean, that's really all I got to say about that.
Well, my take on this whole Draymond thing is if they don't win the title, get rid of him this offseason. Do whatever it takes. I don't care if you've got to go Draymond and Kuminga and a couple of ones to get KD. Get Draymond off the court. And then you'll have guys that just want to ball. Steph, KD, and Jimmy. They just want to play ball. That's all they want to do. Draymond would rather focus on the refs and his podcast. Who's the guy that's getting rid of his podcast because he wants to focus on the playoffs right now, the final run? Somebody has a podcast.
Paul George.
Well, yeah. I don't know why he even has a podcast. The guy done a crappy whatever. Okay. I thought it was somebody better.
Well, he's had his podcast for a couple of years. It's a pretty good one,
right.
actually.
Well, maybe Draymond should take a cue. Okay. Nobody wants to hear Draymond Green during the regular season in the playoffs. Just shut up and play basketball. I mean, does Steph Curry have a podcast? No, he's focused. It's ridiculous.
Ryan, I just wanted to say two things. One is I thought Brandon played horrible again in the first half. He needs to step up. He's got to step up in the first half. And the problem is now he played horrible. He had his head down. And he keeps going to these things where he like drives and then he goes for a shot and at the last second he passes it. It's not good. And last but not least, tonight opened up a lot of holes. And this is something the Warriors are going to have to focus on. There's no reason Andre Drummond controlled that first half. Drummond was unbelievable. He was getting every single rebound. He was doing whatever he wanted. And it's like, wait a minute, Green, you're supposed to guard him. Or was it post? It's just when they get a big guy, especially like if you see Denver, who's won 12 out of 14, what are they going to do when the Joker's in? They got to start getting rebounds. And, you can only have Looney do so much. And again, no TJD. I don't know what's going on with him. I guess he's done for the season because he hasn't played 8 straight games. And, we need a center. So I just thought, Andre Drummond is only in there because, their big guy's out for the year. The guy hasn't played most of the year, and the guy tonight was like an all-star. That can't happen. That's it.
Yeah, no. Oh, yeah. Now I remember what I was going to say with the why people look like all-stars against the Warriors. So this is actually a part of the Warriors philosophy. And because I watch a lot of these podcasts. And anyways, Draymond has talked about it on his podcast before. So, like, if you saw Quentin Grimes had like a career night tonight, I'm sure you guys know about the Nas Reed. He owns Warriors. There's all these players who just kill the Warriors, and they're usually like, people, all these guys you would never think. And what it is because the Warriors just give up open shots to these guys. Like, they let them get hot because in their scouting report, and Draymond talks about it, they don't close out to these 3-point shooters, and it's a part of their game plan. And that's why they're actually been a top rebounding team the last couple of years. I think this year they're like top 5. Last year they were actually number 1 in the whole league. And you wouldn't think of the Warriors as a good rebounding team because they're actually not when it comes down to it. Like, teams can take advantage of them and outsize them if they need to. But they get these offensive boards and a lot of boards because they just run out to, and get these balls there. Because now and I'm sure you guys noticed, now that it's a 3-point era, all the shots are going outside. They're not just going to the big men. So if you crash, you can get a lot of rebounds. So what the Warriors do is they purposely don't close out to certain people in their scouting report. But the problem with that in the NBA is if you let people get hot, it doesn't matter if it's Quentin Grimes who averages 10 points or Brandon Pajemski who averages 10 points for us. We've seen Pods have 30, 35, and Quentin Grimes today just had 43. So I think that's what the Warriors' issue is is you have it in your scouting report not to close out to certain guys. And I think you got to respect everybody in the NBA. Obviously, you're not going to be able to close out on every single possession, but it shouldn't be in your scouting report. And I think that's an error with Steve Kerr to just not close out to certain players at all.
Yeah. Senior says, I got a podcast and I won the championship in fantasy baseball. So yeah, maybe Draymond should keep his podcast going, huh? Okay. I look at this whole situation with the way they played, and it's like when Steph was not on the court tonight, they couldn't do nothing. They looked just awful. And I think for them to win in the playoffs, Steph's going to have to play close to 38 minutes, and Jimmy's going to have to play closer to probably 40, because they are going to have to, shorten the rotation. Buddy Hield is just awful if his shot's not falling. If his shot's not falling, he did have a couple of nice drives, layups tonight, but I'm with Lou. I think Gary Payton II has to play more because he kept the ball alive. He's good, solid defense, gets up on the boards, made some key shots down low. I like Guy Santos with his hustle. He's always getting in there. Quentin Post making a couple of shots, but I'm just looking at this team and I'm thinking, okay, if Jimmy's not out there, I wonder what it would have been like tonight if Kuminga was ready to play.
You win tonight.
I think you do with Kuminga in there.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
Hopefully Kuminga is less than a week away. I mean, they said he might play on this road trip, but there's only 3 games left. You got Monday night, must win now, which Charlotte's not going to be a laydown because they're going to have LaMelo Ball and who else was missing last week? Another starter that they were missing when they got blitzed by the Warriors in San Francisco. But then you've got your one chance to make up for tonight's game is if somehow you can beat the Knicks. If you can win the next 3, you can take this loss. But if you lose to the Knicks and you lose one of the other 2, it's going to be that's tough. They've got to win. They definitely have to win 2 of the next 3. They have to.
Yeah, which is
Monday and
should
Thursday.
Be pretty doable because it's Nets after the Knicks.
Yeah, it should be doable. It should be doable.
Yeah.
But we saw tonight. When you don't show up.
Yeah, I think the Sixers though are a weird team. They've beaten actually a lot of good teams this year. Obviously, tonight I think the Warriors didn't play their best game, but Philly's a weird team, and where they're you got what 3 former All-Stars. I think Tyrese Maxey made it this year. I might be wrong about that though. But Tyrese Maxey's averaging 28. He had a rough game, but I mean they have good players. I'm not super shocked. I mean, I texted you at the beginning of the 4th quarter. I said Warriors are going to lose this one, and just because when you have the Sixers, they're really bad this season, but when you have good players on another team and you got someone like Quentin Grimes who was just going hot, I had a feeling that they were going to be able to just hold the lead, and that they did do that. The Warriors got close, but I think it's hard right now for the Warriors, like you said, to lose any games. But I don't think this is the worst loss, just because the Sixers do, they are a competitive team when they're playing all their guys.
Lou, let's hear from you.
Yes,
What's your thoughts on this?
He brings up a good point, but you got to remember, Joel Embiid hasn't played most of the time. Their last 2 games, they lost by 48 at home, and the problem is the Warriors lost. And look who beat them. Like I said, Philly's 2 big stars didn't show up tonight. Now, Paul George did hit some big shots in the 4th, but Dan, I think you bring up a good point.
Paul George.
The Warriors were minus 22 with Steph off the floor. And the problem is, if you looked at the lineup that was on there, that's where Brandon has to show up. And when he doesn't show up, Green doesn't show up. That's what I was saying. Thank God Peyton showed up, or they would have been blown out. But I think they were minus 22. In fact, the problem is he sits at the end of the 1st, beginning of the 2nd. Then he sat beginning of the end of the 3rd, beginning of the 4th. where the Warriors are making a run. And instead of being 4, he comes back in, they're down 9, and it's like Brandon today, I think, was like minus 18 on the box score. So, it's just one of those things. And, they didn't, I just thought tonight, Green needs to get rebounds. It's got to be stopping because Philly just kept getting layups, and that's where I really think, Butler, we really miss Butler on the defensive end.
Yeah,
and, I didn't know. Yeah, with his back, I just hope, he comes back. We need him the next 3 games.
Well, I don't know. Do you play Jimmy against Charlotte and then sit him against the Knicks, or are you going to play him back to back? You're going to play him back to back?
No, you don't play him against Charlotte unless this was just a fake injury. Like he was just like, "Oh, I'm gassed. I need a little rest."
No, they said it was bad. He's been in therapy for the last 2 days.
Then if
he was hoping he was going to play.
Yeah, then if it's not a ghost injury, I would say you definitely sit him against Charlotte. The Warriors, if they can't pull out that win, I think they'll beat Charlotte. Like I said, the Sixers are a better team than Charlotte, and not just that. I think what Lou said, and he made a great point. The team, besides Steph and Quentin Post in the first half and Gary Payton, no one else showed up. It was like really, really bad. It was, I even texted that to the group chat a couple times. I said Post and Steph are the only, because at that point, I don't think Payne was doing much offense. So they really were the only points we had. I think it was like they had like 80% of our points. But anyways, basically, the Warriors next game, and it's the same thing happened against the Magic, actually. And that was, Steph was playing that. I mean, not Steph. Jimmy was playing that game. I mean, if you really think about it, the Warriors lose to the Magic if Steph doesn't, go insane.
Go crazy.
They were down.
I agree.
Yeah, they were down 14 at half after that crazy 3. So really it was 17 they would have been down if he doesn't have that, 3/4 quarter shot.
Yeah,
so, basically what you're seeing is if Jimmy doesn't give you his 18 efficiently, the Warriors aren't that good, is what I think right now. Like you basically are relying on Jimmy Butler to, if there's any Jimmy injury, like this is a serious thing, the Warriors' chances are toast. I mean, they're just
they will be the 9th or 10th seed if Jimmy's out.
Yeah, right. And I think
this team, we saw this team before Jimmy. This is a different team with Jimmy. He makes a huge difference.
Yeah,
but it's the problem with the Warriors tonight is Pods was off. His shots he hasn't hit a 3 in a while, it seems like. He was 0 for 3 from the 3-point line tonight. I mean, basically it's Post and Curry that are scoring. Buddy Hield was 0 for 6 from 3. Pat Spencer, I don't know what he was taking. That was a terrible. I mean, the guy barely hit the rim, I think, from 3. Peyton's not a great 3-point shooter. He's 34% type guy. I would have liked to see a little bit more minutes tonight from Kevin Knox. He only got 7 minutes, but the Warriors kind of got blitzed when he was out there. They don't have the length when Butler's not out there. I mean, they just have a lot, I don't know. I don't know. It's a team that seems to play hard when it's ready to play hard. When it seems like, oh, we're okay. We're 12 down. We can get back into this. We came from 17 back at Charlotte. We can pull this off. And they had that look like they were just waiting to get going, and they waited too long.
Going through the motions.
Yeah, the defense doesn't show up.
Yeah, Dan, do you think since Philly just lost by 40-something at home, have lost 9 straight, the announcement of Joel Embiid, the Warriors just said we'll show up and win, and you can't do that in the NBA.
I think there's a little.
Don't worry, guys. Overconfident a little bit.
I think there was some of that. I think the Warriors felt like they could just, like I said, they can get back in any game, and they didn't take them serious. And you could see that in the third quarter they were pushing, and in the fourth quarter They were pushing. They got it tied a few times. They never got the lead, but they just waited and waited and waited too long. And they waited a long time to really guard Grimes. They didn't really do anything with Grimes until late. And they, then Paul George took over. And Paul George has been historically a Warrior killer. He just hits shots that, guys are all up in his face. And that pull-up jumper where he hit toward the end of the game, it was about a 15.
Yeah, he had 2 big threes. Yeah, 16-footer. But Twine.
He had 12 of his 17 in the fourth.
Yeah, he was hot, and he had guys right in his face, and he was hitting them. So, you give credit where credit's due, and you just move on, and you hope to go into Charlotte and really show up and play. With Jimmy not being 100%, I think you probably, since it is a back-to-back, you probably should rest him for that game and see if we got a cat that showed up here. All right, we got. Oh, it's a dog. Okay, it's a husky.
Because you definitely need him. You definitely need Jimmy at the Garden.
Yes.
It's a must.
Yes.
Because the New York is physical. So they need him.
If you can go into Charlotte and somehow get a really good lead and put it on them, and where Steph only has to play like 25 minutes, and he doesn't have to play hard minutes.
Wasn't the last Charlotte game he played like 18, right?
I'm not sure what he played, but
I think it was 18 minutes they all played, the starters.
But you got to
because they were all back to back. They played at Sacramento and then they played the Warriors.
That would be good, something like that.
You got to go blitz them. You got to come out hot, and you got to try and be up, 15 to 18 at half, and then you go out in the third quarter and you try and put it up by 30, and then you can pull stuff. That is the game plan, and it's what the Warriors used to do when they had all the big guns. They would do that, but this back-to-back stuff, I don't see how Jimmy does both, but who knows? We'll see how it goes. But I think they can play with the Knicks. I do think they can play with the Knicks if they're fully healthy.
Well, the Knicks can't defend, which gives me a lot of hope because, basically they're actually the opposite of the usual Knicks teams. They're a top offensive team this year and one of, the bottom third defensive teams. So, as long as they're not making all their shots, I think the Warriors are going to score enough. So it's really just going to be, can they hold them, to a reasonable point total? I think when the Warriors hold teams under, 110 this year, I forget the exact record, but it's pretty good. Basically the Warriors just cannot, get in scoring battles like they used to. You kind of talked about it, how it seemed like today they were trying to, come back. And I don't really think that's how this team's built anymore. I think needs to be a smart team who kind of just, outsmarts the other young teams, because a lot of these teams in the league are really young, and that can be our advantage. And we've been using that to our advantage lately, is kind of just putting these teams away and, not letting it get too close. But I think when we saw it earlier in this year, I don't think this is going to be a great, clutch team, just because I think there's so much athleticism in the league. And at the end of the day, I think if a team wants to get a rebound on us or, an offensive putback, as we've seen, it's not that hard for them to do. I think these close games are going to be a little, coming down to the last shot a little too much, and that's not good.
Yeah. All right, we'll have Deloading join us here shortly, and then we'll close this show out. But as Deloading has some comments to make, Lou, any other comments on tonight's game?
No, but you know what? I think I know a loss is a loss, but this might be the best thing for the Warriors. Hey, we're 6-1. We got Jimmy. Everything's going good. You need a gut. You need to get a gut in a punch in the gut occasionally to wake you up and say, okay, guys, we need things to worry about. And like I said, I think they came in today, Philly, overconfident, especially, with Philly losing 9 straight. 2 of their players didn't play well, and the Warriors took it for granted. And you can't do that on the road in the NBA. I'm sorry. It doesn't matter who you play. They're all NBA players. You got to show up. And this is now 2 games where both first halves they haven't shown up. They got to show up on the road.
It looks to me as you look at the standings, Houston lost tonight to Sacramento. Big win for Sacramento without Sabonis on the road in Houston. They take it to the Rockets. But unless Houston does the young, dumb thing, they're young and dumb. If they fall apart, it appears the top 5 seems to be set. And 6 through 10 is going to, change possibly on a nightly basis. Because look at the loss column. It's 27 for the Clippers at 6 and 29 for Dallas. The Warriors had a chance by winning tonight, would have been taken over the 6th seed, sole possession. They'd be 33 and 27, half game ahead of the Clippers. But now they're right in the thick of that. I mean, the Warriors could fall all the way to 10th. And I don't think that happens. I don't think Dallas, with all their injuries, really gets going. The Warriors have a pretty easy schedule, but we'll see.
I think that's what gives me a little bit more hope for these other teams. Is actually just the strength of schedule. Like the next game the Clippers play is against the Lakers. Pretty good shot they lose that again. They match up really bad against the Lakers. And if that happens, the Warriors can take on Monday because the Clippers play tomorrow. Warriors play Monday against the Hornets. So hopefully that'll be the case. Hopefully they can, like we said, put away a bad team. But luckily the strength of schedule right now is giving the Warriors a little bit of leeway to lose a game like this. So I think it's really important to win that game against Charlotte. Otherwise, then you're not. I think it's important for us to get that 6th seed so we kind of have it. And then at that point, you have to lose it, so we need to start losing games. And I think that gives us some leeway.
Deloading. What's your takes on tonight?
That was one of the most infuriating games in a while from this team. I had a ton of problems with it. First of all, Draymond was awful just to begin with. Like that when we came back, we tied up the game, and then he gets the 3-second in the key, and then he's late to the rotation on the corner 3-point shooter, gives up another 3 to Yabusele. It's ridiculous. And then one of the biggest issues I had with the game was just Steve Kerr. Steph came out with like 3 minutes left in the first quarter. We were up 30 to 25. He doesn't come back in until like 6 minutes left in the second, and we're down 39 to 41. Just leaving him out of the game for that long. And then like Pat Spencer minutes. And at least I get the understanding of like putting Pat Spencer in when Steph's off the floor. Like, okay, you want a guy that can handle the ball, facilitate a little bit, but then he kept him in the game when he put Steph back in. And it's just crazy. And the last thing is Buddy Hield. You can kind of tell within the first few minutes if Buddy Hield is going to show up to the game or not. And when he's like, I could tell in the first minute and a half, he's just bricking shots. He looks out of control. Like when he's on defense, it looks like he's running with sneakers that have no grip and he's just sliding around. But like when he's not hitting shots, why don't you put Kevin Knox in, get a guy that's bigger, a better defender at least, because Buddy's not making anything. So I don't know.
That's a good
There's
point.
Just a ton of stuff.
What'd you guys think of that? The game I thought was kind of pretty much over. The Warriors would have had to make a 3. But the inbounds pass to Draymond, he quickly threw it back to Guy Santos. Do you think that was the play? Or do you think Draymond was pulling one of his shenanigans like, oh, you're dogging it, Guy, I'm going to make you look bad?
Yeah, no, that was Draymond. And he did that earlier in the game. I think they had a like little fast break and Pods didn't cut fast enough and Draymond just threw it out of bounds and he was yelling at Pods.
Yeah.
The thing before that is like he took Payton out because they needed a 3, which is fine, even though Payton's great at like getting in the mud of things and getting offensive rebounds. But you put Pods in over him instead of like Post or somebody else. That made no sense to me.
Yeah, exactly. I think you got to put in Post. You got to put in Post there. Even I don't know if you guys are watching ABC or NBC broadcast, but Steve Legler, who's one of the people I respect most that talk about the NBA, especially on ESPN. Yeah. Tim Legler. Tim Legler was the commentator on ABC. And anyways, he said the same thing you just said, deloading, that they should have put in a Quinn Post and probably not Pajemski if they were going to take out Payton there.
Did he? Yeah. I didn't understand it.
Yeah, I think why, I think what you said too, real quick, and then I want to hear the other guys say. I think the thing with Payton and Pods right there is, Pods is one of Kerr's guys, and we've seen that with Kerr in his coaching career. If he likes you a lot, you're going to get a lot of playing time, especially in those clutch moments. And I think what you just said about Buddy Hield, how you know if it's his night or not, I think the same thing goes with Pods, actually, in my opinion, because Pods he's been playing a lot better since the mask has come off, and we've given him his credit. But he's actually had some stinkers. In every game, you know right away it's going to be a bad Pods game. And I think it's got to be the same thing with Pods, where it's like if he's not, especially because he's not, especially when Kuminga comes back, I think you don't have to not play him, but his minutes, the same thing with Buddy. Their minutes just need to be kind of based on how they're playing that game, because I think they're both very like momentum players.
For sure.
What do you think?
Yeah.
I think Dan brings this up a lot. It's what you see. If you saw tonight, Brandon wasn't having a good game. I thought Peyton was playing incredible. You got to play the people that are playing well that night. I mean, Peyton was incredible. He was getting good layups. He was doing everything he was asked, and he's not being rewarded. I thought tonight, and again, I know we sometimes give Kerr the credit, but I think we got to blame Kerr tonight because I thought his rotation sucked. I thought his rotation at times was horrible. So,
he was horrible
that's all I want to say. I mean, again, Philly played great. They deserved to win. The Warriors didn't deserve to win. The Warriors probably didn't deserve to win last game, but they did. So, it's the NBA. It's a long season, ups and downs. Now, a good team bounces back. They have a good practice tomorrow, make it to Charlotte, enjoy themselves, and then, come out Monday. But this is now 2 straight games that they really fell asleep at the wheel. And then at halftime, as Dan says, they're down 12-14. People forget when you're down 14, it takes a lot to get back to the lead, and then you got to have a bench that can, put you over the top. And right now, it was just a bad game. It was awful. Warriors didn't deserve to win.
Yeah, I'm looking here at Mark Graves' comments. I want to look at the Curry minutes night. It seemed like it was over 35, but let's see.
It was 36.
36. Yeah, he seemed like he came in with 10 minutes left in the fourth quarter. To me, it looked like the Warriors were really going for this game, and they knew that they had to play Steph. And the fact that they lost this game and Steph played 36 minutes, again, you're going to need to go into Charlotte, and you can't have a close game where you need Curry and you wear him down at the end of the game. And I could see Charlotte giving the Warriors a game. I really could, just because it depends on if Jimmy plays. They're a different team, obviously. We saw very clearly how important Jimmy Butler is to this team tonight. And the fact is, he didn't even really score much against Charlotte, but his defense, like you brought up, Lou, he is the key. I think this team would be so much better if you got rid of Draymond and were able to get KD. If somehow you can convince Phoenix to take Draymond in the offseason, I think it's going to cost you Kuminga to do it, which would be kind of hard to if you can get him Draymond and a few other guys, if they would be willing to do it. But you're looking at $50 million. So you need to come up with another $25 million. I don't see, I guess Phoenix might do it if you threw in, Buddy Hield and a couple of other guys, and you would probably have to give up like 3 number ones to do that. But if you want to hang on to your ones, it's going to cost you Kuminga. So
I have a quick question for you guys.
Yeah.
Because I'm kind of shocked looking at this. Who do you guys think had the most minutes tonight?
For who?
Moses Moody.
Warriors.
Moses
Moody.
Moody.
Warriors?
Yeah.
He never was off the floor.
Yep. 38 minutes from Moody, who practically did nothing in the game. But it's just like, and Kevin Knox only saw 7 minutes. I just don't understand how another guy or Guy Santos didn't get those minutes when Moody clearly didn't have it tonight.
Yeah, I would have given Santos more. He only got 17 minutes, and Guy was playing hard. He always does.
I don't know if Moody clearly didn't have it. I only remember Moody taking a few shots. What was he like, 50% from the field or close to it, right? I don't know. I don't think he took too many shots.
2 for 4 from 3-point range. He was 3 for 8 total.
Yeah, so I don't know, 151 shot for 150%. I don't know. I thought Moody. I didn't know this. I don't think he had a great game or a bad game. In terms of like spreading out minutes with those guys, we were all begging for Moses Moody to get more minutes at the beginning of the season. So I'm not going to complain now, but I definitely agree in terms of like Pajemski and different other guys like Buddy Hield. Their minutes need to get cut down certain games. I'm okay with Moody or certain guys like that playing a few extra minutes.
Yeah, we got some comments in here. Santos is trash. They needed a 3, and Santos fell asleep. I'm not so sure.
The game was over by then.
It really was.
And that's the coach's fault. If you have a timeout and you have the ball on the side, that's the coach's first say. That's the one thing you don't see the coach. We don't see it because of the TV, but the coach has got to say, guys, we have no more timeouts. Be ready. Hey, here's the play again. Go over again and again so you're prepared. You could tell Santos wasn't expecting the ball. The other thing, I think, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Lou.
No. What I was going to say to Dan is, Dan, the good news is we better get rid of Green. If not, we have him for 2 more years. Yeah. And you don't want him for 2 more years.
You know what? Draymond's act to me, he's like a cat with 9 lives, and he's used them all up as far as I'm concerned. I did not want the Warriors.
The defense.
Yeah, I didn't want him to re-sign him after they would they win the title in 22 and then they re-signed him after that year, or was it the year after?
It was the year after.
Year after, that's right. Jordan Poole got his money in 23. I thought when he smacked Poole and then all the other antics last year, was it just last year he choked out Nurkic?
Yeah. So that already came after the contract. It was just the Poole. It was the Poole punch that came before it,
right? But then he choked out Nurkic, and then he did
that
thing
after that was he punched Poole leading up to 23, and then last year he had that like few week span where he choked Gobert out. He punched Nurkic in the face. He like grabbed the guy falling down. It was just like insane.
Yeah. The guy's look. I don't care what Draymond says. He thinks he's the smartest guy in the world. He's got emotional issues. Okay, the guy is not dealing with a full. I just who are you? He's always lecturing everybody. You know what? He's been great, but you know what? If you can get KD for him, and I heard Phoenix was interested in Green. I don't know if that's true or not, but that they were.
I don't know
open.
why.
Yeah, I don't know why, but I mean,
I'm not complaining though.
Yeah, I mean, what I don't want to see happen is them trade Jimmy Butler for KD. I mean, I would do it, but it's still love to see KD and Jimmy and Steph because they would just be focusing on hoops. And Draymond's always got something else going. And, Giovanni says he's the heart of the team. Show some respect. He was the heart of the team. What has he done in the last 3 years? What has he done in the last 3 years since the championship? Okay. I mean,
that's a good point.
What do you want to keep? You want to keep him forever? The guy, he's constantly inconsistent. I mean, that's kind of a weird thing. Constantly inconsistent. That doesn't sound right. But he's inconsistent. He's just up and down. And, he's the kind of guy that loves to yell at you, but when you do something wrong, like, he's kind of like the guy like Debo. We're talking about Debo, who just got dealt earlier today. How about Debo getting on the kicker earlier this year and then telling him to lock in? How about Debo dropping balls when it counted? That's kind of like Draymond, always telling everybody what to do and yelling at people when they do wrong. But when he's constant, I mean, you nailed it tonight, deloading. It was like 3 or 4 mistakes on defense. It was tied at 112, and he got a defensive 3-second. And you know why he got that defensive 3-second? Because he's pissed. You can watch his body language. He's pissed off that he's not getting calls down below when he's shooting.
Yeah.
And so he's walking and he's just pouting inside the lane. And
then just running over to Kerr as well. Running over to Kerr, yelling that the guy kicked his leg out. I mean, I kicked my leg out more on the couch than Quinn Grimes did on that 3. So That was just ridiculous too.
Yeah, it was also a dumb challenge too because Quentin Grimes had missed a bunch of free throws, and then he literally missed 2 or 3 on those.
Yeah.
So he was,
But that was also the last
hypothetically-
time out.
Yeah, there was so many things wrong about that play. I think the first thing is you just don't challenge it because you don't need to challenge it. He was 1 of 5 from the line and is a bad free throw shooter. He missed 2 or 3 literally at the line because they lost the challenge anyways.
Right. I mean,
that's the guy who won a foul. Tim Legler was saying at the end of the game. They were like, "Oh, they should foul Grimes." And
if he would have kept his challenge,
and then Paul George made it both free throws.
If he would have kept his challenge, he would have been able to get that one call that went out of bounds. Off of Paul George.
Yeah, that's what Tim said.
Look, the NBA's got to change things. Okay, when the game's on the line and you're out of challenges, and it's clear, the call is clear. That it's not a foul call where like, oh, okay, I get it. If there's a foul called and you say, well, it really wasn't a foul, we can't challenge it. But when you blow an out of bounds call, you should be able to correct that like the NFL does with their instant replay, whatever they call it.
The last 2 minutes.
Absolutely.
Last 2 minutes goes up.
In the last 2 minutes, just say, hey, just whistle down to the refs off George clearly. And you don't have to have a challenge for that. You shouldn't have to be able to have to save your challenges for some ref that just misses a call that's out of bounds or stepping on the baseline or, something that is unforced. Come on.
Absolutely. And they had the under 2-minute review and people were complaining about it. And instead of just fixing it, they took the whole thing away. It's like, maybe stop using it on every single play. And how about use it on the ones where it's 50-50 calls and the refs aren't sure, instead of every single play that players are complaining about fouls. But they just took the whole thing away.
Yeah. I mean, I tell you, the complaining and whining with these refs, it's Luka, it's LeBum, it's Draymond. I mean, these guys, they ought to put them all in a little booth and all give them pacifiers and a bottle of milk, and let's see who can suck it down the fastest. These whiners. I mean, golly, just this is what, and they get the calls. Some of these guys, like Luka, will get the calls, and LeBum gets the calls. Steph never whines, never complains, never gets the calls either. You think the NBA would reward that? Like, hey, look. Here's our superstar, the number 1 selling jersey, the number 1 fan everybody on the road comes to. You could hear it in the Philadelphia, in the inside. What is that place called? The Spectrum or whatever that is. It used to be the Spectrum. But you could hear the crowd every time he shot. They would be like, they're ready to cheer. They're ready to go crazy. And yet the NBA lets Steph get hammered constantly and let him get, just watch Steph on the off ball when he's trying to run around, and just watch guys hold him. It's like he can't even run around and get to, guys are holding, and they allow it. To me, the NBA gets what it deserves when Curry's gone and LeBum's gone and KD's gone. The league's going to fall apart.
It's really embarrassing that Steph Curry would love to have an Austin Reeves whistle.
Oh, exactly. Austin Reeves. Yeah.
Like, what does Steph have to do to get that whistle?
Yeah, that guy gets more free throws than anybody. It's unbelievable. Yeah. Maybe Steph should put a headband on. I don't know. But Giovanni says someone might want to show Dan the box score tonight. Draymond, 36 minutes, 13 points, 8 rebounds, 8 assists, and a +3. Show some respect, Dan. Yeah, how about like 3 or 4 blown defensive assignments down at the end of the game when it all counted? Giovanni. How about the box score with the foul on a 3-point shot? Just come on. All right.
Giovanni, just watch the game back and look at how many missed assignments Draymond had on rotations or leaving Yabusele wide open in the corner.
Yes, exactly. But Giovanni just looks at the box score. Yeah. All right, guys. Any closing comments before we get out of here?
No, we get tomorrow off before, of course, our show tomorrow night, and the Warriors will bounce back on Monday. They have to.
There we go. Yeah, they have to. That's right. We got the hot corner tomorrow night, 8:00, with Giant Sports Talk Live and NorCal Sports Network teaming up. So we'll see what that will be all about. Not sure what we're going to talk about yet, but we'll come up with something. And again, Warriors lose tonight, 126-119. 126. Think about that, guys. They gave up 126 points to the Philadelphia 76ers, who, by the way, let me tell you what the 76ers have been averaging on the season. The Philadelphia 76ers have been averaging 109.2 points per game and giving up 113. So this is one of the bottom 10 teams in the NBA in point differential, okay? They are minus 4.3. Only Brooklyn, Toronto, Charlotte, Washington, and New Orleans and Utah are worse. Even the Portland Trailblazers are better. Okay? So to give up 126 tells me what we talked about earlier. Warriors didn't show up until they decided to take the first half off tonight. And you know what? It cost them. They did not come out and play with a defensive intensity until they got way behind. And that's exactly what they did with Charlotte. And that's developing bad habits, thinking, okay, we're playing teams that are sub 500, and this team's lost 9 in a row. They don't have Embiid. We probably just, we'll get the victory some way, somehow. But they didn't come out and say we're going to take it, which is what you need to do when you don't have a Jimmy Butler on the floor. You need to, and I don't know where that comes from, but it's got to come from the younger guys that, need to step up. And I really do think where Giovanni talks about Draymond, I think that I will put that on Draymond. He's the leader of the defense. He's the so-called wannabe defensive player of the year. He's got to show up. He shows up at the end of games on contested shots a lot. I give Draymond all the credit in the world for that. He's one of the best shot contenders of guys that come down. He does very well. He goes straight up. He's able to, but he's also, like Deloading mentioned, he's not rotating and getting out to guys, and he's letting them shoot wide open shots. So who's the superstar of the team? Well, that would be obviously Steph. I mean, he's top
Does
5
Guy
all time.
Santos suffer the most minutes wise when Kuminga comes back?
What was that again? Is Guy Santos what?
Does Guy Santos suffer the most minutes wise when Kuminga comes back?
I think so.
Mhm.
I think so. Yeah. I think it could be Santos, and I would say it's probably knowing Kerr based on his. I think Buddy Hield definitely is going to suffer some. I think I wouldn't be surprised though if Peyton ends up not seeing as many minutes, which we've seen Kerr do a lot. So Giovanni. So is he not a leader, Dan? Did I say he's not a leader? I said come on, Giovanni. You know what, Giovanni? You're always trying to put words in my mouth. So yeah. Go somewhere else. Jeez. All right, guys. We have come to our conclusion. Anything else before we leave?
Nope.
Appreciate you guys.
All right,
No,
guys.
sir.
Thanks, Deloading. We're out of here. We will see you guys tomorrow
Nice
night.
chatting with you, Deloading.
Giants
Appreciate you guys.
Sports Talk Live, NorCal Sports Network teaming up 8 p.m. for the Hot Corner. And I can't find the music. Where did it go? Here we no. What the heck? Why does it always just there it is? All right, guys. We'll see ya